I think a lot of us believe that there is a future version of ourselves who is a good artist. We imagine that one day we will wake up and suddenly know what we are doing. But of course, that isn't how it works. You don't become a better artist and then start making good art. You become a better artist because you keep making art. I'm going to explore that in today's video, but hello if you're new here and welcome back if you've been on my channel before. I'm Katie, a full-time sketchbook artist, and today I'm going to be painting a couple of pieces in my new sketchbook using gouache. That's our theme for the month over on my Patreon, and I just taught a workshop earlier this week for a technique in a live stream for my patrons. So if you want to learn how to use gouache, learning about consistency and colour mixing, then I will link it down below in the description. I also share my process and do a sort of tutorial for the technique I'm sharing in today's video. I hope you enjoy watching the process, and actually that kind of ties in with the theme today, because I didn't suddenly think, oh, I'm a good enough artist to teach. I found I was getting a lot of questions and I had answers, so I shared my process. I love to encourage people to create and give them confidence to pick up a paintbrush. And people often comment on my socials and tell me they wish they had sketchbooks that look like mine. What they don't see are all of the sketchbooks that came before these ones. I didn't come out of the womb being able to paint like this. I don't share everything I create, and there are spreads that I never post, and pages I want to forget about. And here's the secret. The one thing that will make you a better artist. It's not by buying a secret art supply that suddenly makes everything beautiful. It's not by taking one course that will magically give you the one skill you think you've been missing and can apply to every single thing you paint. You can only learn by doing. I actually saw a reel the other day that inspired this video and inspired me to talk about it. It said you don't find your voice and then share it, you find your voice through sharing it. Becoming an artist works the same way. You don't get a letter through the post to mark the occasion. You don't suddenly wake up one day and have the skills or talent that you think you need to become one. I notice this a lot when I'm teaching, both online and also at my in-person art retreats. A lot of it is about giving ourselves permission. So we won't get a letter that tells us we've graduated and done enough work to be able to call ourselves an artist. We wait for that kind of permission. Permission to call ourselves an artist, even if we have another job. Permission to call ourselves an artist even when we only spend maybe an hour or less a week in our sketchbooks. Permission to sell our work, to make prints and originals and send them around the world. Permission to post online, to create a community of like-minded people. Permission to teach. Like I said earlier, nobody suddenly told me I'm a teacher now. It's a label that I've grown into and accepted as I've realised I do have something to say, and I absolutely love it. I love encouraging people to create. But we're never going to have someone tap us on the shoulder one day and say, "Congratulations, you've officially made it." It just doesn't come. Every artist that you admire had to decide they were going to keep showing up before they felt ready. There are people who want their own sketchbook pages to look this way. They want to make nice art. But the thing is, you can't do that by magic. You can't wish it into existence and it won't suddenly happen overnight. You have to find your art style, find your skill by doing it. I'm actually going to show a few pages on screen to show my progress here. Some from 10 years ago when I was just dabbling in mixed media, some from 7 years ago when I really decided to dedicate more time to art alongside my day job. One of the most frustrating things about learning art is that progress is almost invisible whilst you're doing it. I certainly felt many times that my skills just weren't improving, and I still feel that to this day. I feel like I'm stuck and doing the same thing and not getting anywhere at all. Day to day, it really feels like nothing changes. You paint something, you don't like it. You paint another thing, you still don't like it. But 6 months later, you'll look back and realise you couldn't make today's painting 6 months ago. It doesn't announce itself, it just sneaks up on you. And it's why I always recommend keeping work in your sketchbook even if you don't like it. Don't tear it out or glue pages together. I know it's so tempting because you don't want to see it anymore and you just want to hide it. But the beauty of a sketchbook is you can turn the page. You don't have to look at it anymore. Every spread really is a blank slate. And you'll move through that sketchbook and you'll practice and you'll feel like nothing is changing. But when you fill that sketchbook and can look back at those early pieces, that's when you'll really notice a difference. That's when those older pieces that you hated will really show your progress. You don't have to learn to like them, but they're an excellent marker of where you have come from. And that leads me on to something I mentioned earlier, about how people often tell me they wish they had sketchbooks that looked like mine. I've talked about this in a previous video, which I'll link up in the cards and down below, about how I get comments telling me my sketchbook isn't a real sketchbook. It's too nice and it's too pretty. It's not got enough messy work in it, or sketches, or whatever they've decided make it a real artist's sketchbook. Now, I don't take those comments to heart, and that's water off a duck's back for me now, because there is no right or wrong way to create in your sketchbook. But let's talk about that expectation. I don't come to my sketchbook ready to create a perfect masterpiece of art. I always come to my sketchbook with a sense of joy and play and experimentation. It's something I talk a lot about during my drawing sessions on Patreon, that mindset of coming to it without expectation, just to create. There's no expectation of it being good or bad, and it's really common to open our sketchbooks sometimes with a really high amount of pressure on ourselves, that every page should be beautiful, but that really isn't what a sketchbook is for. It is somewhere to experiment, somewhere to make mistakes, somewhere to ask, what happens if I try this? What happens when I layer this media on top of that one? We need to give ourselves room to learn. My earlier sketchbooks were more messy. I have sketchbooks that I don't share that are messier too, filled with private experiments and tests because I don't want everything I create to turn into content, or knowing that I'll share it online. Some of my unfinished pieces may look like finished art by people who are earlier on in their journey than I am. We are all at totally different stages, and our sketchbooks do reflect that. This is one of my favourite ideas from Ira Glass. That one of the hardest parts of learning art is that your eye improves before your hand does. You become really good at seeing what's wrong with your work, long before you become good at fixing it. And that's the way it works. That's a good sign. You're learning what you want. You're developing your own taste and style, and your hand just needs to catch up. Of course, if you keep practicing, it will. You become a better artist by making more art. Every painting or drawing we create teaches us something. Sometimes it's really obvious, like on this painting where my values weren't quite different enough to show multiple layers of leaves. Sometimes it's really subtle, like next time you'll remember to not use as much water, or you'll remember which colours make the nicest shadows, or a favourite watercolour mix that you think would work for a specific subject. It's similar to our style. Every little lesson carries into the next piece of art. It might not even be a conscious thing, but it's all a big part of the journey. Making mental notes, or actually just writing it on our pages, the things you do and do not like about a piece you finished really helps with that, and it's something I really encourage, especially if you really, really hate a piece that you've created. Now, there isn't bad art, just art that you can learn from, and then you'll be ready to turn to a new blank page and begin again. I still have days, many days, where I paint something and think, well, that didn't work out how I wanted. I still make plenty of mistakes. I still have pages that don't work. I'm not magically good, and everything I create works. The difference is I don't expect every painting to be amazing anymore. I know it's all part of this wonderful creative journey, and I trust that making this one will help me make the next one better. I become a better artist by making more art. I found that when I did my year-long daily art challenge, my 100-day project, my 30 days and 7 days of sketchbook joy, and by continuing to come back again and again and creating in my sketchbooks. So if you're waiting to feel like a real artist, or you're waiting until your sketchbook looks beautiful enough to post your work, or you're waiting until you're talented enough, don't wait. Just keep creating. Trust the process, fill the page, let yourself experiment and find joy in playing with your art supplies. The only difference between the artist you are today and the artist that you want to become is the work you're willing to keep making. Thank you so much for listening and watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I'd love to hear your thoughts and chat to you in the comments, and a huge shout out to my patrons as well. Without their support, I wouldn't be able to keep making these free videos on YouTube, so a big thank you to them. In case you missed it last week, I have launched my 2027 art retreat as well, so if you're interested in learning from me in person, I'll leave that video linked, and I would absolutely love to see you in France and create with you in person. There are just 7 spots left, so I'll leave a link to the retreat page down below in the description too. I hope you have a creative week ahead, and I will see you all next Sunday in my new YouTube video. See you later!